Hi everyone. So in this video, we'll move to the fifth task in this project of attention is all you need, building transformers from scratch in PyTorch. So let's go through the task. We have to implement this pad ID sequence function to resize a single ID sequence to exactly max length. If the input is shorter than max length, extend it on the right with pad ID. If it is longer, drop the trailing tokens. The function must always return a list of length exactly max length. So let's go through the learn section to understand why this step exists. So transformer batches are dense tensors. So every sequence in a batch needs the same length. This helper standardizes one sequence at a time before stacking. The underlying concept: given a sequence of length L and target length M, you produce a length M sequence. If the sequence length L is less than the target length M, we append M minus L copies of pad ID on the right. And on the other hand, if L is greater than M, then we just keep only the first M tokens. And if it is equal, with the best case, we simply return the sequence unchanged. The pad ID is a real vocabulary index reserved for this purpose, and downstream code uses it to build attention masks. A common pitfall: padding on the left instead of the right breaks the causal alignment the decoder expects, and it desynchronizes positional encodings with content. Always pad on the right. Also, do not forget the truncation branch. If the caller passes max length smaller than the sequence, silently returning the original long list will crash the batch stack later. Okay, so this is the function definition where the list IDs is given. We have the max length and we also have the pad ID. Let's go through one of the examples. So we call this function on this list ID is 456 and the max length is 5 and the pad ID is 0. So we know the length of this list is 3 of the sequence. Basically, this would be an input sequence of some IDs, and this is 3, but the max length says 5. So we need to pad it with two kind of zeros, which is the pad ID. So we just simply return 456 with two zeros padded. Let's look at another example where we pass this function with the input list as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is a 5 length input sequence, but the max length is only 3. So in this case, and the pad ID is again 0. So in this case, the last two kind of inputs need to be dropped. So we return only 4, 5, and 6. So in that case, let's kind of implement this. So first of all, what we need is, let's call it L, the length of the input sequence. So this is simply line of IDs, and then we just handle it case by case. So the case one is that if L is less than max length, in that case we need to pad it. So what we'll do is that um, um, there's yeah IDs dot extend, and we here create a list of zeros, the number of zeros being max length minus L. So this was 5, and let's say in this example, max length was 5, but the length was 3. That means two zeros had to be padded. I'm just creating a list of two zeros, and we simply extend it to the ID, so it will kind of take so it considers the list inside this function as a iterable, and then element by element it adds to the IDs list. So like this kind of list comprehension is simpler than like running a loop. And let's then go to the second case where LF is the input length is greater than max length. In that case, we need to truncate it. So what we can, yeah, here we can also return array. And here what we can do is simply return IDs till max length. Else, if they are equal, we simply return IDs. Let's just run it and see if it works. And this works, so we can go ahead and submit it. Okay, so we ran into an error here. One of the test cases failed. Empty input becomes all pad sequence. Ah, so what we did is like we assumed pad ID would always be zero. So we just change this with pad ID and run it again. And this works. I think now it should work because pad ID might not always be zero. Yeah, so this passes now. So with this, we completed the fifth task also in this project. So we'll move to the sixth task in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.